Very good morning to the Gelding on a very warm day in Melbourne, Gelding, and racing at Moonee Valley. But before we get to Moonee Valley, I thought we might have a nomination for an award that we haven't given over the last couple of weeks because I haven't been able to find anybody, but Dickhead of the Week, the ground staff at the Cranbourne Racing Club.
Oh, Professor. Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. I love the soapbox, Professor. It's good to see you back up there. Normally it's left to me to have these things, but it's great to have you back up on the soapbox. I thought it might have been the stewards, Professor, you were going to can for their performance this week. But how can a race meeting be called off when the day's 27 and just a beautiful day?
Exactly, Gelding.
And we've had beautiful weather in the week leading up. A couple of showers earlier in the week to give the track some nice water.
Well, for the listeners or viewers who don't know Gelding, at 6:28 a.m. yesterday, the track was inspected and rated a good 4. The whole of the track was rated a good 4.
Right, and that's normally done by the racing club and, you know, the people that manufacture it. But the stewards are supposed to, as soon as they get on track, is walk the track to confirm the condition of the track.
Well,
so what happened?
Well, Gelding, it wasn't until the jockeys walked the track prior to the first race that they found a wet patch at the 200-metre mark.
Pretty important part of the track, Professor, you would have thought.
Well, that's where a lot of horses are making their moves, 200 metres to the winning post, Gelding. And the jockeys had a vote and voted 12 out of 14 voted not to race. So the Cranbourne Race Club is left that at 6:06 p.m, 9 minutes before the first race, they announced to the world that, there's no race meeting tonight.
Wow. Imagine if you're an owner, Professor, and you're living in St. Ballarat.
Well, the trainers who've come from the country, Gelding, the horses that have come, the owners, there was apparently a large crowd already building for the meeting because it was a beautiful night.
Beautiful night.
Yeah. The TAB, the betting agencies, how happy would they be?
Oh, Professor, that's a good nomination for Dickhead of the Week. I like it. So who did we give it to? The track or the track and the stewards?
Well, Gelding, it's the track officials it's the ground staff because there's still been no announcement about why at the 200-metre mark there was a patch so wet that area of ground was considered to be heavy. So you go from a good 4 to a heavy to a good 4.
Imagine being a horse and you hit it and you go, what the? Professor.
Well, there's one thing you don't want, Gelding, and that's uncertainty on a racetrack. You know, I think remember what Craig Robertson said about you've got half a ton of live animal, and you're trying to steer it amongst 7 or 8 other animals who are all half a ton.
And you're 52 kilos or something.
Yeah.
And you've got a piece of leather in your hands. And some people want to ban the whip. Where you can control the horse. But anyway. Professor, what do we say? Do we say that's racing or just really lift your game?
Well, I think we say do better, don't we, Gelding?
Oh, I think so. I think our campaign's a lot to do better. But
well, you'd be old enough to remember, Gelding. It took me back to Moorabbin Oval.
Oh.
And when conditions in 5 other grounds were perfect, the centre square at the Moorabbin Oval was a bog.
Local showers.
Well, yeah. The allegation is that Coach and a couple of players were out watering the ground ferociously on a Friday night because it suited their style of play.
And Secretary, I think, and again, this is only
hearsay.
I think, Professor, it hasn't been proven or anything like that. I think I read an article where Stewart said they used to get a 6-pack and take the hoses out and water the grounds, because it would bring the opposition, as you said, back to them, and they had players that performed better in the wet conditions, Professor.
Yes, lower skill level. It lowered the skill level all round, which suited St Kilda.
Oh, beautiful.
All right,
Beautiful,
Gelding.
Professor.
Well, racing's today in Victoria's at Moonee Valley, the Metropolitan meeting. The track's rated a soft 5, Gelding. Now, what can we after last night's effort? How much credence do we take from the track being a soft 5?
What's the temperature supposed to be today?
36, 37, Gelding.
Right, and I've been out this morning, Professor, and it's quite warm out there.
So
already,
can we guarantee it's not going to be a soft 5 when they jump? Almost certainly.
Professor, I'm working on some of the later races that I'm in. It'll be a good 3 by then.
Yeah.
And if I could just say to the listeners, when we pick horses on a show, we pick horses to think that, A, they're going to be given every possible chance and given a good ride by their jockey, which we know sometimes isn't the case. And B, we look at the track and we try to predict how the pattern of racing is going to be. But these are unknowns to us. Like a soft 5 on that, we've got no idea how much water the Moonee Valley Racing Club's put on their track. The rail was in a true position last time. It's in a true position today, which normally means that favours front runners and leaders if it's in the true. However, if the ground's cut up and they've watered it, it may be a no-go zone. So all these bets are kind of conditional, Professor, that, we're working on things that we have no control over, and we're hoping other people do the correct thing. So I'll just put those kind of caveats on our bets, Professor, and let's go, because we're having a bit of a run at the moment, aren't we?
We are, Gelding. Well, you certainly are. You're in top condition. As you said, Gelding, the rail's in the true position. There are 9 races. The first at 12:35. The feature race is race 7, the Weight for Age Group 2 Australia Stakes. So without further ado, what are your 2 best bets for today's meeting, Gelding?
Professor, as I said to you earlier in the program, I like Moonee Valley. I like horses that have normally won there or raced pretty well. So on today's condition, these horses have run placings at Moonee Valley, had a start there and run placings. Race 4, I like number 3, Bistro, which is a Godolphin owned horse, but is being trained by Anthony and Sam Freeman rather than James Cumming. And I note previously, Professor, that Godolphin has scratched the other runner in that race, Spacewalk, which I thought had every chance. So taking that lead, I've certainly got to go for Bistro. Alpha One, Professor, surprising that they didn't run it in this race, but instead ran it on Thursday. It comes out that I just think Bistro, which won last start at Moonee Valley, sorry, not at Moonee Valley, at Sandown Lakeside. Before that, it's 3 starts ago, ran second, beaten the long neck at Moonee Valley. So race 4, number 3, Bistro will do me as my first bet. We then go to the last, Professor, where race 9, number 4, Worsfold. Nick Ryan trained horse that's won its last 2 races at Sandown, Professor. Damien Oliver was aboard last start when it won. Start before Blake Shin was aboard. I noticed Nick Ryan has gone back to Blake Shin to ride today. So, look, this horse back from the spell, 2 starts, both wins, ran second at the track, 13 starts for 5 wins. Second bet of the day, Professor. race 9, number 4, Worsfold. And you like, Professor?
Yeah, Gelding, I'm going very early in race 1, the Musk Creek Farm Handicap, a benchmark 100 over 2,500 metres. I like horse number 5, Princess Rani's, coming out of barrier 6. It's had 12 starts for 3 wins and 3 placings, so a 25% win rate, a 50% place rate. Its last start was a win at Flemington. Gelding carrying 4.5 kilos less today. So
in
hot
a benchmark
day.
70. Yeah.
A benchmark. Yeah, that was a benchmark 70. Did I say the horse is up in class, Gelding?
Significantly, Professor. No, you didn't say that, but it's in a benchmark 100. But as you said, certainly gets a lot of weight relief from a last start winner.
Yeah, and look, I did consider that, Gelding. It did form part of my consideration about selecting this horse, but I looked at the trainer, right? We've got Peter Moonee, very experienced trainer. I don't think he'd be putting this horse in that race if he thought it had no chance at all. He's not that sort of trainer. So,
is he the most informed trainer at the moment, Professor?
Well, he would appear to be, Gelding. He would appear to be.
He's on fire.
Now, Carleen Heffel's on board.
Yes.
Has she been a rider of your horse, Gelding?
I'd have to go back and check the records, Professor. It's hard to say no to that because that horse has seen a lot of different bums on it.
I did think that she might have had one ride, because a lot of riders have only ever had one ride of your horse, Gelding.
Yes, there was a spinning wheel of jockeys where you got one ride and then the trainer sacked them.
All right. Well, Carleen's in career form, Gelding. 9% over her career, but over the last 50, 12%. And Peter Moonee, 22% win rate over the last 50. So I'm going for that combination, especially at $4.80 and $1.65, Gelding.
Oh, Professor, I'd like a question for you without notice, Professor, though.
Yes, Gelding.
Now, it drops down to 53 kg.
Yes.
Carleen Heffel is an apprentice who can claim to.
Yes.
Will she ride it at 51 kg?
Well, that's a good question, Gelding. We probably won't know that until when?
Probably after the race, Professor, when they say they gave permission to ride overweight. Or, a lot of jockeys, and that's a problem with apprentices. We don't know what their riding weight is. So, again, something else to look forward to. Maybe we can hit the Racing Victoria website, see what a alleged riding weight is, Professor.
Well, of course, and that's what riding weight, as you would know, having a father who was a jockey, Gelding, riding weight can fluctuate from day to day, week to week.
Certainly does, Professor. And especially a lot of these jockeys where they've got to lose fluid and things like that, they can have a cup of tea and put on weight. Roy Higgins for breakfast used to have a cup of tea and a couple of wee Willems. And that was breakfast.
Yeah, it's not what I'd call the breakfast of champions, Gelding.
No, and then go to the sweat rooms to have a sauna to try to lose kilos when there's nothing to lose.
Although that being said, Gelding, he was a champion jockey.
He was,
and a former guest on Sports Fan Radio.
Yes, certainly was. Certainly was.
All right, Gelding.
And was also a partner in some of our horses, Professor.
Yes.
With the Wiley Dalziel, Roy Higgins syndicate.
Correct. All right, Gelding, my second selection is in race 6, the Lawn Rules Handicap, benchmark 70 for fillies and mares over 1,200 metres. In that race, I like horse number 2, Croatia, Gelding, out of barrier 8. 8 starts for 3 wins and 3 placings, so a 38% win rate, a 75% place weight. What I like about this horse, Gelding, it's won at the track. It's won over the distance in December. It ticks both of those filters and also ticks your filter, Gelding, of having run at the track and have done very well at the track. So that's something to take into account. Now, this campaign, Gelding, 5 races old at the moment. It's been in very good form. 2 wins, 2 seconds and a third. So over the last 5, doing very well. Matthew Cartwright's in the saddle. He's in career form with a 12% win rate over the last 50. Mar Eustace, Gelding, over the last 50, they've shrunk to a 12% win rate. That's unusual for them. So hopefully they can turn it around today at Moonee Valley.
Well, I think Moody's been in such good form, Professor. They've had a couple of runners, and Moody's start doing it, but they're still sitting on top of the trainers list with 47 wins for the season so far, Professor. But Moody's on 35 wins, and yet the runners, Moody's had 155, and Mar Eustace have had 303. So, double the runners to only be leading him by 12 wins. So,
well, the strike rate, Gelding's the thing to be looking for.
Yeah, but look, they still got a good strike rate of 6.4, Professor. But look, you've done well, Professor. The two leading trainers, your selections, are both from the leading stables, and both stables using claims on these horses.
Yes, Gelding, exactly. All right, let's turn to the Professor's Parlay. We can say the very, very successful Professor's Parlay.
What is it? The last 5, Professor?
Yes, yeah, we're going very well, Gelding.
So a house on each one, the old Ross McDonald theory.
Yeah, we're now 5 houses in front.
Oh.
So
you're a whiz, Professor.
Thursday, Gelding Jacquinot, followed by yesterday's results at the Australian Open. See, we are even changing the type of betting we're having and the sports we're betting on, and still getting up. So Tsitsipas was successful, and the Joker last night also got up. The win parlay, Gelding, was worth $17.50. The place parlay was worth $7.50. So very nice.
They're still collects, Professor, aren't they? They're wins, aren't they?
Well, they are wins, Gelding, and
they're wins, aren't they? Yeah,
they are. And the thing we look at, Gelding, is that do we finish with more money than we started with? The answer is yes.
Exactly, Professor, and that's the way we should be punting. And let me just say, you've been in sensational form with the National Football League in America. I don't think you've missed one of those. Fantastic. So good to see. Watching the tennis last night, I was still anxious because we had the parlays going. Yet the two tennis players won quite easily, but I was still a little bit anxious. So how are we going to go this week, Professor?
All right, Gelding. Well, we both agree that when we're doing these tips for the viewers, that we're trying to win. So we look at the horse that we believe is going to give us the best chance of being successful in the parlay, and that's not at Moonee Valley today, that's at Rose Hill. So we like race 2, horse 1, King's Gambit. Would you like to tell the viewers just a little bit about King's Gambit, because it's not a horse that we've covered in the show already, Gelding?
Well, it's racing up in Rose Hill, Professor. King's Gambit is the favourite for the Blue Diamond. It's had one start for one win. One at Flemington, I think, late last year, won quite easily, or won very impressively, enough to be installed as favourite for the Blue Diamond. I suppose today's run, they're going to see where they go, because I believe there's also talk they may miss the Blue Diamond, Professor, which is not bad, which is a $2 million race, to concentrate on the Golden Slipper, which is a $5 million race. So as an owner, I wish I had that dilemma, Professor, that you could bypass a $2 million race. But then again, they might think it goes better the Melbourne way. But at 2-year-olds early that win normally hold their form, Professor. And as you know, I do like them.
Yep.
I also like the Golden Mile, the Caulfield Guineas winner in race 8, but I think King's Gambit should account for these quite comfortably. So using our reasoning behind the Professor's Parlay, because the hardest league is the horse league, let's try and pick a horse that we think's a certainty, and I think this one is. So let's go with that, and go with your other your tips, Professor, which will be interesting to see whether you go tennis, whether you go NFL, as they both come to their highlights, this weekend, the championship games and the finals, or whether you're going somewhere else.
Going somewhere else to Gelding, just like we went to Rose Hill with the first selection, going to the NBA and the NBL today. So,
not the Premier League.
No, not the Premier League.
Good, I can stop sweating.
All right, so we're going for the Milwaukee Bucks to beat the Indiana Pacers. The Milwaukee Bucks are third in the Eastern Conference. They've won 31 out of 48, so that's a pretty good strike rate in basketball, Gelding. I look for the points against in basketball because it's the defense that will actually win the game for you. Points against their average, 111.5. If I compare that to the Indiana Pacers, they're ninth in the Eastern Conference, only won 24 out of 50, so they've won less than 50% of their games. Their average points against, Gelding, though, is 116.8. So they're far more easily scored against than the Milwaukee Bucks. So at $1.35, I think that represents good value, and let's parlay that into the National Basketball League in Australia, Gelding. The Cairns Taipans to beat the Brisbane Bullets, the battle for Queensland. Cairns Taipans are second on the ladder. They've won 16 out of 25. Their average points against 84.8. The Brisbane Bullets are ninth. They've only won 8 games out of 26, Gelding, so they haven't had a very good season. They're second last. Their average points against a NBL worst 93.3. So on average, the Brisbane Bullets have 9 more points scored against them per game than the Cairns Taipans. So at $1.20, I think that represents good value. Now, with the NBA game, get your parlays on early because the NBA game starts in 33 minutes' time at 11 o'clock. So as soon as
that's before the horse, Professor.
Yeah, Gelding, as soon as we...
Really? 12:55? Yeah, so they should be finishing, about the same time.
Yeah, so Gelding, as soon as we finish the show, I'll be on to the betting agencies to get the parlays on because I don't want to miss out on those for us. So a big day of racing, Gelding, and plenty to look at. We're looking all over the place today. We're looking at Moonee Valley. We're looking at Rose Hill. We're looking in Milwaukee, and we're also up in Cairns. So we've got a global view of the parlay today.
Beautiful, Professor. One thing before we sign off, certainly my turn to put our bets on, which I will do after this as well. Have we heard from David from Mordialec, Professor? Has he been following us since?
He's been unusually quiet, Gelding. Look, that's a great segue, Gelding, because tomorrow Sports Fan Radio returns at 12 midday Australian Eastern Daylight Time.
Looking forward to it, Professor.
So we'll have you looking at racing and cricket, apart from anything else you'd like to comment on, but you're our racing and cricket expert. We'll have Cooter looking at tennis. We've got Daligan talking about rugby league and the NRL. The judge is coming off the long run on just about any topic you like. And
what's upset him this week? What's upset the judge this week?
Well, I don't know what's upset him. We won't know that until tomorrow. He's keeping his cards close to his chest, Gelding, but I'm sure tennis will have something to do with it. And returning after more than 12 months hiatus, Dan Butterley will be back talking about US sport. Yeah.
Dan's back.
Dan's back.
I'm looking forward to his comments on the gridiron then.
Yeah.
That'll be.
We know how well he goes at picking. Picking.
I'm looking forward. That's keen because I am interested, Professor. Kansas City Chiefs, and of course their quarterback going down injured last week. A lot depends on how he pulls out for the result of that game, I presume.
Yeah, it does, Gelding, it does. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to how we go today because we've been in pretty good form and hopefully we can keep the ball rolling, especially for GM Racing.
GM Racing's travelling nicely, Professor.
All right, Gelding, until tomorrow and Sports Fan Radio, I'll see you then. But until next Saturday, and that's racing, it's good luck.
And good punting.